What would happen if you started or took your business to $1 million, $2 million, or $5 million in annual revenue? What would that mean to you personally, your family, community, and your network? It can happen. A Million Veteran Millionaires is a mindset engineering Zoom call platform created to rally and gather veteran startups or veteran-owned businesses who want to work together to help each other succeed. We will first focus on changing mindsets that keep you back and go through a process called mindset engineering to take steps to achieving success. We will feature other successful business owners who are leading the way, who are supporting this mission. We are limited to 100 attendees initially. The cost is free to attend. If you would like to know more, please visit amillionveteranmillionaires.com. You deserve to have a successful business, and we want to help you. Change your mindset, change your future.
Hi, welcome to this edition of A Million Veteran Millionaires. My name is Andy Valadez, and we're going to have another conversation on what it takes to be successful in business and in life. So my co-host, Kathy Bowersox, is with me again. Thank you, Kathy, for joining. Last time you were the guest. And so now people got to know about what you do as far as helping coach and being an inspiration for starting veterans business for us and helping me to get this Veteran Millionaires thing going. Say hi to everybody.
It's always great to co-host this event with you, Andy, and I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled to have Ruben as our guest today.
Awesome. So before we get started, I'm going to read something. In fact, I'll tell you who the author is after I read it. It's called The Champion's Creed. I am a champion. I believe in myself. I have the will to win. I set high goals for myself. I surround myself with winners. I'm cool, positive, and confident. I'm willing to pay the price of success. I love the struggle and the competition. I stay relaxed and in control at all times. I focus all my energy on the job at hand. I vividly imagine what victory will feel like. I am a champion and I will win. So today we do have a champion with us. Our guest is Mr. Ruben Gonzalez. When Ruben was 21 years old, he took up the sport of luge and started training for a dream. 4 years later, and a few broken bones later, Ruben realized his quest by competing in the Olympics, but he didn't stop there. When Ruben raced in Vancouver at age 47, he became the first person to ever compete in 4 Winter Olympics in 4 different decades. And he says it doesn't mean he's good, it just means he's old. Ruben's the author of the best-selling book, The Courage to Succeed, and most recently, The Shortcut. Ruben speaks around the world about how to become unstoppable on the way to your goals. Get ready to be inspired to go for the gold. I'm proud to present 4-time Olympian Ruben Gonzalez.
All right, man, you are good. You are good. What you just did, believe it or not, it must be really tough to do because most people get it, they mess it up somewhere, but you knocked it out of the park.
Well, thank you. We got a guest here, Lance. I'm going to say hi, Lance, real quick. He's one of our vets as well, serving in Afghanistan in the Army. But this platform is for veterans. You don't have to be a veteran to be a part of this deal. It's really for everybody. Vets a lot of times, need, when you're in the military, we say that they teach you to be a Marine or a Navy SEAL. You have an identity, you're trained, but they a lot of times don't necessarily teach you what to do after your service, right? So that's what this platform is for, is to help vets and others that say, hey, you know what? I do want to change my direction of my life, change your mindset, change your future is kind of the platform. And so, Kathy, you want to kind of transition to the next phase of this platform?
Sure. So, A Million Veteran Millionaires, this program was Andy's brainchild. And I think it's really important because in being a business coach and working with business owners over the years, veteran or not, it's important to have the right mindset to be successful in business. And we talk a lot about that in some of the different things that we do in the NIA group that we have for our veteran business owners, and then the other one that we have for business owners in general. And it really is important to have the right mindset to be successful in anything you do, whether it is in being a leader in your life and raising your family, whether it's in volunteer work, whether it's in a corporate career, or whether it is in running in your business and being successful. And of course, mindset is hugely important if you're going to be in a competitive sport. And of course, the Olympics are one of the most competitive things out there. And we are blessed today to have Ruben with us. And Ruben, you talk a lot about your mindset and how you have to think to succeed in your books. What would you say to our business owners that we reach out to as far as how their mindset impacts what they do?
Well, it's huge. I just finished reading a book by Bob Rotella. He's a famous sports psychiatrist, and his clients are mostly golfers. I'm a putt guy myself, but the principles that he teaches, and it's all about mental toughness and pre-performance routines, post-performance routines, how to get yourself, how to increase the possibility that you will get in the zone, right, and you'll keep those negative thoughts away. And they apply to everything, not just sports. But it's funny when you guys were talking about how what y'all are doing is in a big way designed to help veterans transition, right, from military to business, right? The same thing happens with athletes, right? I mean, nobody tells them what their life could be or should be, or what they, how they can apply all the lessons they learn to life after sports. It's very similar. And the athletes, they have this mentality. They think that they're dumb jocks, right? And I tell them, no. You have a bunch of things, attitude-wise, and this applies to veterans too. Okay, you have a bunch of things, character-wise and attitude-wise, that make any employer want to hire you, right? And the next step is you be the employer, obviously. But with athletes, it's perseverance, teamwork, dedication, discipline, mental toughness, being coachable, and same things apply to the military, right? Discipline, mental toughness, courage. Man, when I speak for military or firefighters or police, and my first book is called The Courage to Succeed, I almost feel like, man, I feel like a phony here, because I don't know what I would have to do if I had to face bullets, right? I'd be hiding somewhere, I think. And so part of me feels that way. And so, because I have so much respect, right, for what you guys are willing to give up, right, just to keep our nation free. And so, but the first thing I would say is that you have what it takes, but you're probably at some point you're second guessing yourself. But character-wise, and anybody that owns a business, the smart ones, they don't hire for talent; they hire for character, right? And for stick-to-itiveness and all they hire for the person's beliefs and values, and then you can train that person. It's a lot easier to do that than to find somebody that's a good salesperson but has lousy, no character. And so you have what it takes. If you're listening to this, you have a lot of what it takes and more than most people have, and so you have to go in with that mentality.
Absolutely. And you talk a lot about being coachable in your book and making that shift from, I have all the answers and, I know what to do, to opening yourself up, and how that is a strength to allow yourself to have that vulnerability to ask for the help that you need. And I am guilty of not asking for the help that I need. I think for a lot of people, it's not easy to do that. And I think especially for people like veterans and first responders who are used to being courageous and tough and those kinds of things. And so what kind of guidance do you have around that, around being coachable and, finding the right coaches and people who can help them to be successful in what they're doing?
So tell you a little bit about my story so you guys can get some perspective and put it in place. I am an unlikely Olympian. Okay. I'm not a great athlete. I'm a slowpoke. I got a lot of heart, but no body, just like Rudy. Okay. You ever seen the movie Rudy? Same thing. We just shared the stage a couple months ago up in the Northeast. And it was funny. I told my story, and we knew each other already from other times. But then he told his story, and I looked to the boss, the person that had brought us all in. I told him, man, it's all the same principles, just a different, his has got a football flavor, mine's got an Olympic flavor. Some people will, but it's the same thing. And so I was always the last kid picked for PE. When I was 10, I saw the Olympics on TV and I thought, man, that's my dream. That's what I want to do. And I was drawn to the Olympic athletes, and what drew me to them wasn't their athleticism. It's weird. It was their spirit. I realized, wow, this is a group of people who are willing to do, anything, train for years and years with no guarantees of success, and then make it. Some of them do. You got to be so strong inside to put yourself through that. And so I put them up on a pedestal because of their character, actually. I didn't even care about the medals. And so, but it was a pipe dream because I was on the bench for kickball. And my nickname was Bulldog in high school because I'm very tenacious, very perseverant, right? I, never quit. And so that's why I picked the luge. When I was 21, I see the Olympics. I'm watching the 84 Olympics, and I see Scott Hamilton, the figure skater, win the gold medal. He's about 5 feet tall. I thought he gave me hope. Everything just changed in my mind. I thought if that little guy can win, I can at least play. I'm going to be in the next ones no matter what. I just have to find a sport. It's so totally crazy at 21. But I believe, you have to have belief will get you going. If you believe something's possible, right, you'll take a shot. Desire, if you want something badly enough, ain't nothing going to make you quit, right? So I always had the desire, but I didn't have belief. I see Scott Hamilton, boom, right? I'm ready to take action. I went to the library, looked at the list of the summer sports. Took me 5 minutes to realize you got to be Superman to do any of these things. There's no way. And I got a little down. And then I started looking at the list of the winter sports, and it's like the analytical side of my brain kicked in. And I thought, I'm about to put together a plan for the next 4 years, right? It probably would make sense to base the plan on my strengths. My strength's not athleticism. I'm just an okay athlete. My strength's perseverance. I'm Bulldog, right? And so I thought, I've got to find a sport that fits me. Something that's got a sport that's so tough, it's got so many broken bones, there'll be a lot of quitters, right? And then I'll stand out, right? You have to find a place where your superpower stands out. And so I had it down to ski jump, bobsled, and luge. I never skied before. I lived in Houston, Texas, right? So forget, the only ice I'd ever seen was in my iced tea. So ski jump, that would have been suicide. So that's out. Bobsled. Who are you going to find 3 other nuts who want to do the bobsled, right? You got to go to Jamaica for that. And so that left the luge. The luge is something you can do by yourself. And so I didn't even know where the track was. And so I wrote Sports Illustrated a letter. This is for the Olympics, 84. And my letter was real simple. Where do you go learn how to luge? Signed, Ruben. That's it. And they wrote me back, and they sent me this picture of a guy on a luge. I'm looking at it over there. I've had that picture for almost 40 years. And they said, Lake Placid. I call Lake Placid. I'm an athlete here in Houston. I want to learn how to luge. So I'm in the Olympics in 4 years. Will you help me? The guy starts laughing. He says, how old are you? I'm 21. He really starts laughing. He says, forget it. You're too old. We start them off when they're 8 years old. By now you have 10 years experience. No way. And I knew hanging up's not an option, right? And I just kept talking. And finally, I don't know, I guess he got fed up, and he said, we got a camp starting in a few weeks. Be there. And so I went, right? And I went. And they took 10 years. It takes 10 years for that 8-year-old kid to make it to men's start, right? Because until they're 19 years old, they're racing from the junior start down at the bottom. And then you got the ladies start and then men's start. And so they crammed 10 years into 2 years with me, because the last 2 years, I need to be competing around the world to try to be one of the top 50 in the world that would get to go to the Olympics. And so I got hurt a lot because of that, but I also got hurt a lot because I didn't listen to coach. See, I went in, I was a 21-year-old, hard head, and that hard-headedness kept me in the game long enough, right? I broke a bunch of bones the first couple of years, but I kept coming back. So that perseverance kept me in, but it also made me very resistant to following coach right away. All right. And I learned everything the hard way. In fact, my first coach says, you weren't bulldog, you were half bulldog and half mule. Okay. If you'd have just listened to me the first time, you wouldn't have gotten hurt nearly as much. And so it took me 3 Olympics to get to the point where I was ready to let go. Okay. And what happens is being in control, right? Being in control, that feels safe, right? It feels safe. But being in control keeps you in your comfort zone. You can't improve if you're in your comfort zone, right? Letting go, finding a coach, finding somebody that's already done what you want to do, right? And then that's your leader, and then following the leader right away, doing right away what they say. Then you learn faster than anything, and then you become the leader, and then you repeat. You do it the rest of your life, right? Trying to work your way up, just like the ranks in the military. And so it took me 3 Olympics. And right before, a couple of years before the Vancouver Olympics, which is my 4th one, I was going to be, it was always the top 50 got to go. I was always 45 in the world, roughly. Then they made it smaller. It was going to be top 40 are going to get to go to Vancouver, right? Well, that was going to be a stretch. I'd never been top 40. And I was 47, okay? I mean, everybody thought I was coach's dad. I didn't even think I was a coach, right? They would ask me that when I was, and so I felt like I had my back to the wall, and it took that for me to realize I'm gonna do whatever coach says. And as soon as I started doing that, I started improving more than I ever had. I was just a few weeks ago, I went to Salt Lake City. I got a brand new sled. Went for a few days in January, a few days in February. I'm 60. I'm sliding better than ever, more consistently, better, more relaxed, better times. Coach is so happy. He says, man, the next Olympics is just top 35 get to go, okay? But you got that new sled and you're sliding better than ever. You got a shot. That's all I need to hear. Don't give me a number, coach. I don't want that and mess up my mind. I got a shot. That's all I need to know. Now, my job is to do whatever it takes, right? So that if I'm number 36, hey, at least I gave it all and there's not going to be any regrets, right? But I'm hoping if I make it, the next one in 3 years, then it'll be 5 Olympics in 5 different decades, and I'll be the oldest winter Olympian in history, okay? And so that's movie stuff, right? And so at the last Olympics, all the other coaches were behind me. They're saying, do it for the old guys. People will ask me, at the end of a talk, they'll ask me, are you going to, when I'm getting close to the Olympics, they always, there's a Q&A. Are you going to win the gold medal? Yeah, I'll laugh. I say, man, at my age, I'm happy to make the cover of AARP, right? But it's a dream that's people are starting to get excited about it because they can see themselves, and it helps them take those excuses away, and not wait till you got everything going perfectly, which will never happen before going for it. And so I don't know. That's my short answer. Okay. But it's a control issue, right? You got to be able to get, so you find somebody that's done what you want to do and somebody that you trust, right? Not some shyster. And if you trust them and they've done it, why not, right? Just let go and go in with the attitude that I'm going to do whatever they say. And when I started speaking professionally 20 years ago, 2002, right after the Salt Lake City Olympics, I went to an NSA meeting, National Speakers Association. They've got a chapter here in Houston. And I met a guy who was really successful, right? He was the most successful one by far out of that group. And I asked him to be his mentee. Will you teach me the business? And he made me jump through hoops to do it, but then he taught me some things. Well, first thing he told me was, I don't care if you're a 10-time Olympian, unless you write a book, no one's going to take you seriously because the author is considered the authority of a subject. You wrote the book on it. I thought he had a publishing company. He was going on so much, right? I had all my guard up, and I told him, look, man, I can't write a book. I made C's in English, okay? I mean, my parents celebrated it. I brought a C in anything. And he said, you got a great story. You just write it down like you're telling, like it's a letter to your best friend. Don't try to get fancy. And then we'll give it to some A students. They clean it up for you. That's just grammar. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. He goes, yeah, it's called editing. So shut up and sit down. I mean, that's how I learned the speaking business. And that was my first of 6 books. I've sold 300,000 books all over the world in 10 different languages. But if I hadn't trusted my coach, right? Because I had all these logical reasons. My mind, I had put together a solid case why Ruben can't be an author. And he said, no, just write your story. We'll get some grammar guys. And so when I climbed Kilimanjaro 10 years ago, I lived in Houston, okay? My friend and I, we put a group together and we took him to Africa. He lived in San Diego. Neither of us even knew what a hill was. Okay, we went to Kilimanjaro, which is it's a mile higher than any peak in the Rockies. But we followed a guy who climbed it 100 times, and he's climbed Everest. And he just said, "You just step where I step for the next 5 days. It takes 5 days, 40 miles all the way up. You step where I step. You drink when I drink. You eat when I eat. Right? You rest when I rest." You pee when I pee, okay? If you do everything I say, and you get your picture on top of Africa. And I'm looking at it right there. And so, follow the leader. I won't do anything anymore. I finally got over myself. Because I kept getting myself in the way. And now I just got humble, right? I just realized, okay, just teach me. Just teach me. So it's just an attitude, I guess.
To reinforce what you just said about the book, one of my friends, Eddie Smith, is a publisher. He said 87% of the folks out there want to write a book, but only 3% do.
Really?
He says of the 3% that do, Eddie Smith as well, I think, Ruben. He said of the 3% who do, it's the equivalent of a degree now. So right now, even writing a micro book, or that may be a goal for someone that's watching this, is to go ahead and get that book written. So it is your calling card, like you're mentioning. Also, in the Marine Corps, our mascot is the bulldog, and so that is a testament to the history of the Marine. Of course, the military the different branches have their mascots as well, but it's a tenaciousness that every vet is ingrained, especially through boot camp. They get put through the crucible. Also, as you're talking about the Olympics, you just brought to mind that it was a war game. War games, the military factions would go through a treaty, and they would call a truce. And they would have their best warriors come together to compete. So it was an opportunity for them to show their expertise and their tenacity, their strength, endurance, etc. But you made me a fan of the luge, because a lot of people are like, what's a luge? A luger, right? But you became the luge man. You said you have that photo on your walls. I'm reading your book on the shortcut. You basically became the luge man, and I love the part where if a mentor is going to give you advice, it's an honor to the mentor when you go do it, like right away, take action, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Because when I talk about this, about find a mentor, find somebody who's done it, and follow their footsteps, I always get the same pushback. Oh, I don't want to impose. Oh, they're so busy. And I tell them, look, getting you go meet up at a mentor, okay? Just do it, because you're helping them as much as they're helping you. Because have you ever heard people say like, oh, he's successful, but he's not happy. Oh, she's successful, but she's unfulfilled. She's always looking for something else. Well, the reason is because success, right? Reaching a big goal, success, it's not the gold medal, okay? It's the silver medal, all right? The gold medal is called significance. That means you help somebody else reach that, right? And so if your attitude is, I just want to be an eternal learner, don't bother them. But if your attitude is, I'm going to do whatever they say, I won't make them proud, then you owe it to them, okay? Because you help them get the gold, and then they help you get the silver. And so it's it's a two-way thing.
And one of the points you mentioned about your age, I mean, there's a lot of people, I'm 57 now, losing track of my years, right? But there's a lot of people that think, it's time to kind of slow down or whatever. In reality, there's so much more that we can do, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's one thing to be motivated. We just had Frank McKinney on. He wrote a book called Aspire. So motivation kind of washes down the drain when you take a shower. Aspiration, when you met Mark Hamilton, that you were that was the model for you, the leader, right? And even going up the mountain there. So when you aspire to something, it transcends even your own expectations. But go ahead.
Yeah, I finally got to meet Scott Hamilton about a year.
Scott Hamilton.
It was like 38 years after he inspired me. I finally got to meet him. I was actually speaking for Chick-fil-A, their national convention, about 6,000 people, and he lives there. And I knew Dave Ramsey from speaking together somewhere. The guy tells you to cut your credit cards. And so Dave Ramsey lives in the same neighborhood with Scott Hamilton, so he hooked me up. And so anyways, so we're having coffee, chatting for a couple of hours. And I told him, Scott, whenever I going to speak to any group, right? My goal is to do for them what you did for me. Take the excuses away. I want them walking out thinking if that guy can go to the Olympics even one time, I can do anything, right? Give them hope and give them the courage to be willing to face those fears that are holding them back. And it's usually fear of failure, fear of the unknown, sometimes even fear of success. And so, but if they walk out with that courage, right, that new courage, as soon as they face the fear, 9 times out of 10, they realize it was just a smoke screen, right? The fear was just in their head. And now they're going. Now they got a little bit of momentum, right? And I'll get these letters, these emails actually. And it's always 2 years. It's like, it seems like from the point you get inspired to when you start making things happen, it's like a 2-year gestation period of a dream, right? And all the emails are the same. I heard you speak, or no, it wouldn't be like this. It would be like this. I heard you speak 2 years ago and I lost 50 pounds, or I paid off my credit cards, or I paid off my house, or I started my business, or whatever, right? Fill in the blank. And boy, that makes me feel like $1 million. I mean, the check you get for speaking is great, but man, that email gives me that feeling of significance, right? That I'm making a difference. And so it's sweet. But and you guys listening to this, right? When you start facing those fears, you start making big things happen. Now you become an inspiration to a bunch of other people. It's like you're passing the torch of success to another generation. And so it spreads. You start a ripple effect of success, and there's no telling where it's going to end. So it's not just about me or not about you. It's about what we can do, right? Pretty cool stuff.
And speaking of books, also, we've heard the saying that readers are leaders. And I know we were talking, Kathy, before we got on the Zoom call, that your son has even written a book called The Launchpad.
Launchpad, yeah, Launchpad, yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. And you're mentoring even your own son. I have two, one 22-year-old girl and a 20-year-old. And so as a dad, trying to mentor them, a lot of times, the generation like, oh, dad, but thankfully, if you invest in their life and their influence, they're more receptive to receiving that.
So we homeschooled both of our kids from day one. Gabriella, the oldest, she's 23. She's getting married this summer. And Grayson, our son, and it's weird spelling. It's like Grace, right? E-N. So Gracen. Right? It's kind of like a boy named Sue, right? It doesn't kill
That's
you.
my middle son's name, his middle name. But
Is that
it's
right?
Graceson.
Really?
Grayson. Yeah.
That's better, right? Or even the old English spelling, right? With a Y in there, right? Grayson, son of Gray, powerful. No, we got Grayson, but he's not that way. And so ever since he was little, both of them, I always told them, hey, don't think that you need to go out and try to be an Olympian. Okay, you got to figure out what your Olympics is, and you can be a gold medal engineer, gold medal teacher, gold medal whatever. Don't you have to do the sports? And so try to take that pressure off, right? And help them realize that you got to figure out your dream. Okay, and then I'll help you. I'll hook you up with people. And I've been. I'll show you real quick. This is my messy office, but see, that's all personal development stuff. All right. Over there to the left of that hat, that's my old sled. And then that one that's under the Olympic rings, that's the new sled, the fast one. And then that picture right over the sled, that's the one that Sports Illustrated sent me. And so when Grayson was about 10, he started getting into RC airplanes, right? Flying them. And they're like $100 each. The cheap ones are $100. And after he crashed a couple, I told him, dude, you're going to have to, figure out a way to make some money. I'm not banking this. He goes, what do I do? And he couldn't mow the lawn, okay, because they're both preemies, and he was so short that he couldn't get the angle on the lawnmower, right? So that was out, and so that's too bad. And so I said, okay, see those books? That's all personal development, history, all good stuff. Pick any book you like, read it, and then you write me a paper. And it's not even a paper. All I want you to do is give me a list. Write me a list of the takeaways, the stuff that you learned that you really like. I don't care that's grammatically correct. I just want to know that you learned something. And each one you do, $10. Okay? So you don't have to get sweaty doing this. Well, when I made this deal, I didn't know he was a speed reader, because over the next 2 years, he read 80 books. Okay? I mean, all the classics, right? Think and Grow Rich, Magic of Thinking Big, Nightingale, Ziegler, Brian Tracy, you name it, he's read it, right? And so you know how it is. It's the same books, but it's always the same, different books with the same principle, right? And so he's starting to learn them, right? He's starting to grow. He's starting to take chances. He's very entrepreneurial. Wants to, long story short, I finally got around to taking all of his reports that he made, cleaned them out a little bit, kind of re-edited it, and we made a book. It's called Launchpad, right? If you go to Launchpad Grayson, GRACEN.com, you're going to see all the stuff that he started doing because of the character and the success principles that he learned. He started applying them in his life, and you'll be blown away about all the stuff he's done. But long story short, he wants to go to the Air Force Academy, and he just got a congressional nomination here in the state of Colorado, which is the toughest one to get because there's so many kids in Colorado that want to go there. And we're waiting. He had these seizures when he was 6 to 8 years old. They're called febrile seizures. But then they went away, right? Because it's just a little kid thing. But because of that in his background, he had to do an EEG, right, for USAFA, Air Force Academy. And now we're waiting to get a medical waiver, right? Because there was a couple of spikes in his EEG, but they weren't even in in the area that corresponds with with seizures, right? It was just he actually had a 105-degree fever the day before. And anyway, so they're both winners, willing to face their fears, and so I'm so proud of them all. I'm sure you haven't figured that out yet, but I am. And the thinking is everything that I learned. I've been a personal development junkie all my life. I've been to tons of seminars, just hungry to learn what makes successful people tick, right? Well, is there, always looking. And my finished product is their raw material. I mean, there's no telling what they're going to do with it. And isn't that cool? All right. As long as you teach them, right? And I always told them, ever since they were little, life is tough. Okay. It's going to knock you down. It's tough. You're going to have bloody knees just when you fall from a bicycle. But you know what you're going to do? We're bulldogs around here. Okay. We only breed bulldogs. No chihuahuas in this house. All right. So, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back in the game because we're champions around here. And so I say that from a stage and of regular people, right? Not military people. And I'll have people come up to me and say, man, that's kind of cruel to tell them life is tough. No, it's cruel to give them a ribbon for 30th place. That's what's, no, you gotta tell them, and you gotta train them how to be tough so they can navigate through life. It's tough. It's not easy.
Kathy, did you want to ask a question?
Well, you're absolutely right. And that goes back to mindset again, and the perseverance and, taking that action that you talk about in the book. And I'm sure you had to do that throughout your Olympic career and starting your speaking career and all of that. You had to keep taking action. And you've got to have that perseverance mindset to be able to do that. So, and one of the things that I loved that you talked about in the book was you talked about find somebody who's done it before and follow them, find a leader, follow the leader, and then be the leader. That kind of comes full circle. I've always said something similar: live it, learn it, live it, pass it on.
I like that. Whenever I look down, I'm not playing on my phone. Okay. I'm a note taker. Okay. Learn it, live it, pass it on. I love it.
Yeah. Because, you can learn something and then you have that concept, just like you talked about in the book, where people think knowledge is power. No, applied knowledge is power. Amen. And so you can listen to a podcast or read a book or whatever it is, learn it. But if you don't apply it and live it in your career, your life, your business, then it's not going to be helpful to you. And to really learn something, you have to do it. You have to live it. What is that they say, that you don't become an expert at something until you've done it for 10,000 hours? And so you've got to live it. And then to go to that significance that you talked about, to go for the gold, you've got to be able to pass it on. right? You've got to be able to become that leader that you talk about in the book.
Otherwise, it's almost wasted knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. That's a really good mindset for people to have, even if they're starting out in business, to follow your example and your guidance to find that mentor.
Yeah.
And find that person that's done it before. You talked about, walking through the minefield. Well, you follow somebody else's footsteps so you don't get blown up. Finding that right person and then following exactly what they tell you to do. And then you're successful and you can be that leader. So what guidance or advice do you have for people on finding those leaders or those mentors to help them? If they're just getting started in business, or they're at a place and they want to scale, but they don't know how. What
Find somebody that's done it. So it might be attend I see that you're let's see, I can barely read it, but it's Veterans Chamber of Commerce. That's so cool. I didn't know that existed, right? So you go to Chamber of Commerce and there's a bunch of different business people there. And then you find the ones that maybe there's 2 or 3 out of the 200 in the room. There's 2 or 3 that are in your field that you're trying to get started in. And they'll probably tell you, well, yeah, but we got our own association, right? Just like speakers have an association. There's like 10,000 associations out there. Why don't you come to our meeting? And now you're in a room with maybe 150 of that field, right? So now out of that 150, probably 10 are actually doing it. Okay. There's probably 10 that are really, really doing it. Everybody else are kind of coasting, or they haven't even started. All right. But they join. They're dues, paying members, but they're not doing it. So you got to find who's, you start asking around, who's the best ones around here? Who's the leader? They're probably sitting in the front row, and then that's the one you want to ask, take them out to Starbucks, and successful people, they like to talk about success. They do. And so you go with a pad of paper and you just ask them a bunch of questions. And my mentor, Jim, he said, you take me out to lunch once a month. You got me for 60 minutes. If you're smart, you can bring a pad of paper with some questions. All right, that'll get us started. And at the end, I'm gonna give you some homework. If we ever meet and you haven't done last month's homework, it's over. Okay, because I don't want eternal learners. I want action people. I told him, man, I'll do anything you say. If you tell me I got to shave my head and wear a lipstick to make it in this business, do it right now. You laugh. He goes, all right, fine. You don't have to do that, but you got to write a book. And so, anyways, so you got to go to where they go. All right, you got to go where they go. And you'll find them. If you just go to the mall, you may never find anybody that's in that field, right? But you go to their association, you don't even have to join. I mean, you can. It's probably a good idea. But for me personally, I do a lot better one-on-one, right? Than in a group. I kind of shut down when I'm in a group of people. Speaking is different because it's like one big fat person out there because they don't talk back, and I'm over here safe, right? But I don't do any training or facilitation because what if they don't listen? What do I do then? And I got all these fears about that. And so you have to figure out what works for you. And for me, it's just, hey, meet them for coffee and, get a pad of paper and ask them for some homework. If they don't think that, give you some, ask them, what are 3 things that I need to do before we meet again, right? And that will impress the heck out of them. Okay. And that will impress the heck out of them because it's so rare, and that's it. Success is simple. And so I've been speaking professionally since March of 2002, full time, but I'm not in the speaking business. Okay. When I speak to speakers, I'm not in the speaking business. This is not some clever thing that I just thought up. Okay. No, this is for real. I'm in the marketing Rubens speaking services business. Big difference. Okay. If you're in the speaking business, you're afraid to pick up the phone. If you're in the marketing, if I ever have a slow month, I can always track it to 3 months ago. I wasn't marketing enough. I wasn't making the calls. If my jeans start feeling a little tight, I can always track it to not eating right. All right. The food didn't attack me. I attacked the food and the wrong food. No. And so, actions have consequences, right? And so you have to be disciplined. And man, military, you got discipline. You just have to now you got to discipline into that field, right? Into that thing that you're going to do. And you got to outwork the competition. You have to be willing to fail. You want to win. Here's a few things that Jim told me. He said, don't be a perfectionist, okay? Perfectionists never get anything done, okay? Because they're always waiting for everything to be perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect, and they just don't do anything. They're eternal learners. He says, throw mud on the wall. Some of it's going to stick. We can always clean up the mess later. Well, guess what? I'm still throwing mud on the wall, okay? I haven't had time to go clean up the mess. And he said, make mistakes. You want to fail. I mean, you want to succeed big. Be willing to fail big, because that's how you learn. You want to succeed fast, be willing to fail fast. When COVID hit a couple of years ago, that March, the phone was ringing like crazy because everybody was canceling, right? Canceling because all the meetings were canceled. And I was scared for about a day. I told my wife, don't buy anything. I got to figure this out. And I figured out we got to figure out this virtual thing. And so I called a couple of speaker friends of mine, because we have our own little mastermind. And I said, hey, look, we got to figure out virtual. We got to do it fast. Let's throw mud on the walls, make every mistake possible, right? So we figure out the 80% of the stuff that doesn't work, and we discover the 20% of the stuff that does work, right? And so we figured out how to do the lighting, how to do, the background, how to do, all the things. And within a couple of weeks, we figured it out, because we're all making mistakes. We figured it out, and then we were off to the races. We survived. 2008, when the bubble burst, man, all the speaking business dropped about to 50%. And there's always a culling. There's always, it just happens, right? It's kind of like the oil business in Houston, it's boom and bust. That's like every business like that. And so, but we survived, I survived 2008, and then we survived COVID, and there's probably going to be something else in a few years, right? But you know what? We're going to win. And the survivors have more market to divvy up, right? Because although the weak ones are gone, right? And so it's a mindset that I will do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to get the job done. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be stepping on people and burning bridges and doing. No, you've got to be moral, ethical, legal, obviously, because you can't mess up relationships. They'll come back and bite you. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to get the job done. That's success 101 in my mind. I don't have any tattoos. If I did, it wouldn't even be the Olympic rings. You know what mine would say? No regrets. When I'm about to die, I want to look back and say, man, I did this right. Okay, no regrets. And so, that's kind of how I go, how I function. I just wrote an article. I was doing so well in Park City, Utah, training last month after a 7 or so year break, that it inspired me to write this article a little bit about the mental side of sports, right? And how important your pre-performance routine is, your post-performance routine. And it's a fun, quick read on some of the things that I rediscovered during those days. And so Andy, I'll send you the link. And so I got it up on my LinkedIn. It's an article there, and it's good stuff that you can use.
Oh, good. We're going to add a blog to this website, so I'll put a post on that.
Awesome.
So one of the things we've booked, the shortcut too, and you just demonstrated it just with your energy and your focus, staying green, and that means being humble and learning. Even talking about mentors, going to the academy, a lot of these vets, work with the American Legion, the Marine Corps League, et cetera. You don't really know them until you get to know them, right? I mean, some of these people, the Honor Guard, I think with the American Legion, one of the guys that I had an opportunity to interview, he had flown 208 combat missions in Vietnam with the F4, highly trained, highly professional. You wouldn't know it unless you asked them. And then in my Marine Corps League circle, there was a gentleman that graduated from West Point. I didn't know this, but he was the CEO of a $40 billion company. And so I kind of recruited him as my mentor. He reviewed some stuff for me and gave me some awesome advice, which I printed an email as my reminder. He said, set big goals. He says, I would never become the CEO of this major company coming from a small town had I not set big goals, and he exceeded his goals. But even as we talk about mentors, and I think you alluded to this a little bit about the people, you have an IQ, which a lot of times IQ folks are not people persons. So you offset that with the EQ, which is the emotional quotient.
Yeah.
And now there's a new term called CQ, which is
what is that?
Differences, and then demographics. You have Gen Z, millennials, right?
Yeah.
You have to be mindful that it takes people if you're an entrepreneur, to lead people, especially for the military folks being officers, they've got to command troops. And it's kind of the same principle. The troops respect you.
They have leadership. They know leadership already. I mean, you guys have got so much going for you, but many times you're just like the athletes that they think somewhere in their head they bought into that. I'm just a dumb jock. No, not if you're willing to, go for it, right? So
what books are you reading now that you can recommend to us? I guess
books.
So every time someone recommends a book, man, I go ahead and get it on Amazon, even though I've got a stack building.
I got a list, but man, shoot, I'm looking at my favorite ones are up there. I love anything by Brian Tracy. It's always the same stuff in a different order, but I still can't keep from buying that book, and because I'm just a fan, right? Brian Tracy, Zig, he's written some good ones. Nightingale, right? What's his first name? I forgot.
Earl, I believe.
Earl, yeah. Hang on a second. Let's do this right. I'm gonna
Take us on a tour.
Yeah.
Ad lib, man of action.
All right, let's see here.
And then we're going to open up for questions in a second with Lance. See if he has some questions here.
Let's see. Jack Canfield, the success principles. So when I was writing my first book, Jim said, you need to go to Barnes and Noble, see how they're laid out, right? The business and self-help books. And you need to get some testimonials, man. Okay. Because that's third party, thumbs up. And so I made a list of 100 top personal development authors whose testimonial I wanted. And I started calling them. I went to all their websites and started calling them. And you always get the personal assistant. You never get the guy, right? And when I called Chicken Soup for the Soul, Jack Canfield, he's one of him and Mark Victor Hansen are the guys that did that, the whole Chicken Soup for the Soul. And so the girl, right, she answers and she says, "Oh, he's right here." She hands him the phone, right? She probably doesn't work for him anymore, but he gets on the phone. He goes, "You got 5 minutes, right?" All serious, like we talked to her for an hour and a half, all right. And he says, "Man, I love your story. I'm writing this book, The Success Principles, and I'd love to have you in there." Well, long story short, because I made the phone call, he put me in there in 3 different chapters. Okay, and I've gotten a bunch of gigs over the years because that's a popular leadership book, right? In corporate America. So they read about me, they look me up, and they say, "Hey, this guy's actually good." And so let's see, anything by Wooden, right? John Wooden, the basketball coach, Lombardi, same thing. These guys are about, making it happen. Let's see here. Maxwell, right? All his leadership books, they're good, right? Let me see. This book is awesome. You've probably never even heard of it. It's called Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale. Excellent book. He actually wrote another one. I got all my sales books on this other side here, but he wrote one called, I can't find it out. Anyways, great sales book by Nightingale, right? Because see, you go back to Dale Carnegie and Nightingale and those guys talked about character, right? And then back in then like around the 80s and the 90s, it became they started figuring out that character doesn't sell as much as make it easy. And it's like, take this pill, I have the midnight commercial, right? You'd be skinny and rich overnight. Well, I bought that pill. It cost a lot of money. I lost money and I gained weight. So don't buy that pill. And so go to the old ones. And so you read something by Nightingale, and he references a book that was written 50 years before, and that guy references, and I just follow that rabbit trail. You always end up the same place. Proverbs. How about that, huh? So because the principle's been around forever. Psycho-cybernetics. That's a great, like that. See, by Maxwell Maltz. I've read all, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm an introvert, believe it, okay? Believe it or not, big time introvert. I don't go to networking meetings because it's a waste of business cards because I'm the guy hiding behind the plant. All right. But you get me talking about the Olympics or personal development, it's like Clark Kent turns into Superman. All right. But I'm Clark Kent in real life. Seriously. And so in college, our soccer coach, one day when we got started, he brings this big box and there was all these books and it was called How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? By Dale Carnegie. That was my first personal development book that I ever read.
That book changed my life, man. Yeah.
Man, me too. Because I was so scared of people that I started highlighting everything. And I live 30 minutes away from HBU, Houston Baptist University. So I drive, so and I had so many highlights in there. It looked like I dipped it in a bucket of yellow paint, right? But one day I took my cassette recorder and I read all of those highlights. It was about 30 minutes. And I would listen to that to and from school for years, okay? and that's how it started coming out of my shell. But I still got to work on it, but you learn, okay, it's a weakness of mine, but hey, doesn't mean I can do it, all right? So I've got to figure out a way. Let's see, that's you've probably seen that from Rudy, right? Play like a champion today. That's I can see that from my desk, right? That's Notre Dame. And then so surround myself with where I want to go. I got Olympic pictures. I got like 30 sets of Olympic rings, bombarding my brain. If I daydream, my daydream.
Oh, show us the luge man. You got the luge man up there?
Yeah, sure. Good. See,
I read about it in your book. I just want to see him.
there he is. There he is. See, so as soon as they sent me that picture, the glare is messing me, and I'm not good. There we go, right there. Okay, that guy, his feet are not pointed. His head is way up. He's wearing a raggedy old suit. He's been a bunch of cracks. This guy's a beginner, right? But it doesn't matter. I didn't know any better. I said, but this beginner, who I don't know who this guy is, he helped me get to the Olympics. He's my hero, okay? And when I figured out I wanted to do how to do a website, I really wanted the Iceman, but the Iceman was taken, right? That would have been so much easier. And so I got the Lugeman, right? I've had that for 20 years, the Lugeman. But believe it or not, like every 2 years, I'll get this call. They think that I sell, hey, you're the lug man, right? I need some specialty lug nuts for my car. He says, no, I don't do lug nuts. I'm luge. Sorry, man. Maybe I should start a lug nut business for the slow months. So let me show you some other stuff here. So this is, see, those are the bibs that you wear. That's the Vancouver Olympics. And that one is the Albertville, France. That's the Salt Lake one. The Calgary one that we didn't wear bibs back then, right? So that's why I only have 3. And we play ping pong a lot here, and whoops. And so more books down here. Let's see there. Books all over the place. Over here, I got Olympic torches, right? Because I got to carry the Olympic torch. That's the Salt Lake City, Olympic torch. I got to carry that one when it went through Kansas City. This is Torino. This is the Los Angeles Summer Olympics. These are real torches, okay? Wow. This one is Vancouver. I got an Olympic museum here. Let's see. Those are pictures from the different Olympics. I got my rings over there. My brother, I talked him into getting into the luge, and he made it. He qualified for Salt Lake City, and so we made Olympic history. First time 2 brothers competed in the luge. How about that? He's an architect in Houston. Okay, Gonzalez with a Z, no S's allowed in our house. GonzalezArchitects.com. You need a house or something redone, man. He's the man. So, but yeah, so I got, if I counted all the rings that are just in this room, it's probably 50 or 60 of them, right? So that's what floats my boat,
Or in your book, the shortcut, you mentioned the Olympia Cafe. It needs to be a place one day. It's a place you want to visit, and you have all the memorabilia in that.
Yeah,
place.
there you go. This might happen. So let me tell you about one more thing. Hang on. I'm going to plug this thing in again so we don't lose it. All right, there we go. Now, about a year ago, it was in March of last year, I did my first TED Talk, okay? And it's got a million views already. It really started taking off. It was called The Power of Following the Leader. The Power of Following a Leader, right? So if you go to followtheleadertedtalk.com, that's a page of my website. It's just about that. Follow the Leader TED Talk. But anyways, I started getting so many emails and stuff about this talk that it made me realize, wow, maybe I'm not the only hardhead. Maybe there's a lot of hardheads out there, right? Maybe there's this an idea whose time has come. And so I thought maybe it's book worthy. And I'd written 5 books, but they were all how-to books, right? I didn't know how to write fiction. And so I had just spoken for Chick-fil-A and their leadership, the head of leadership for them, who's been with them for 40 years. he's written a few of those parable books, right? It's a little story that kind of like Who Moved the Cheese, and the one about the penguins, and all these books. And I was never really into them too much because they're too simple for me. It's almost like a personal development coloring book. But it's like a little story, but just one point, right? In fact, and so I told him, hey, man, I don't know how to write fiction. Okay. You want to partner up on this thing and we do it together. He goes, oh, man, I'm honored, but I'm too busy. I mean, I'm full-time Chick-fil-A. My publishing company got me booked for 4 years because he's written all these books. I said, okay, so what do I do? He goes, call me in 3 weeks. I'll give you, I got 45 minutes. I'll walk you through it. Cool. So I went to the dollar store, right? Like the half price books. They don't have half price books here. Same thing. And I bought all of them, right? Every single one of these little books, because I figured, hey, I got them for 45 minutes. I got to have some good questions to ask them. So I read them all, right? And within 2 weeks, I read like 15 of them. First thing I realized was, man, these are super simple. They're not, a lot of them are not really that good, which gave me hope. I thought, man, the bar's set pretty low here. And so, but I had bombarded my brain so much, right, by reading all these books so quickly. It's almost like you buy a red Honda, and all of a sudden you see red Hondas everywhere, right? Because your brain's focused on that. Well, middle of the night, before our phone call, I wake up in the middle of the night, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I got the whole plot figured out. It was crazy, right? My subconscious mind figured it out, right? And but I still didn't know how to write fiction. How do you write people talking to each other? And so I get him on the phone, and I told him that. He goes, well, you know how your friend, this is all he said. It didn't take 45 minutes. He goes, well, you know how your friends talk, right? He goes, yeah. Well, why don't you stick them in the book, right? They don't have to be officially in the book, but make this guy talk like Bob, make this guy talk like Peter, and so on. And then you know how they would react. Oh, yeah, I think I can do that. And I did, right? And so, long story short, I got, already probably sold 20,000 books, because I got all these clients to buy books for me anyways. And it's getting translated to Polish, and it's getting translated to a couple other languages. I forget, because I got those contacts from other books. But long story short is I didn't know how to do it, but I've gotten to the point where when I don't know, I'll go looking for the source, right? Man, Mark, tell me, how do you do this thing? And a lot of times it's a very simple idea that works. Isn't that cool?
Also, we have a little bit of time left. I wanted to know.
And so you're actually following your own advice. You're finding a leader who's already done it and finding out from him how to do it. And then you're doing it and becoming the leader.
Yeah, that is. You see, theshortcutbook.com. And actually, I haven't done the book on tape yet, but I need to, because over 50% of book sales are audio books these days. And so I need to, there's a studio here in town. I just need to book it and knock it out.
One thing to think about, which Kathy has helped here in Houston, we started talking about marketing AI, artificial intelligence. So for authors, there's an opportunity. There's one platform that will record your voice 10 or 15 seconds, and then you have the book in text. It will read the whole book perfectly.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So it's a cool little platform. It's still working out the bugs, but one of the books I wanted to recommend for the viewers is Marketing Artificial Intelligence with Paul Rotzer. They've got the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute, and there's a big seminar coming up, a conference coming up in Indiana in July, and all the movers and shakers in marketing AI will be there. It's about 130 platforms. And so interestingly, we're talking about marketing, this is going to be it's a game changer now. People are talking about ChatGPT, et cetera, but cool. It's a good read. That's what we're reading right now. Lance, did you have a question you wanted to ask before we go? It's Lance Braswell.
Not that I can think of, but the call I took was Keena Harris, one of the old NIA gals. She said to say hi.
So,
Okay.
Ruben, all these guys and the woman that he's just mentioned are founding members of the Veterans Business Force group that I started.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, look at that, man.
Former military in action.
That's sweet.
So thank you so much.
Go ahead, Lance.
You know what you just did and what I just did, I just made me think of something. I've spoken for over 100 Fortune 500 companies over the last 20 years, right? And you go and speak. And the cool thing about being in this business is you go in at a different level than somebody that's been working. Maybe somebody's been working there for 20 years, but he doesn't have access, or she doesn't get to meet the VP of or the CMO or whatever. And I go in and I'm at a table with those guys and we're chatting, right? And you know what they're always talking about? The latest book. You know, what are you reading, Ruben? What are you reading? And they're hungry, right? Even people at that level, because that's probably part of the reason that they are at that level, right? They're constantly learning, sharpening that saw, and open to doing things better. So it's, again, attitude, right? It's an attitude, way of thinking.
Absolutely. So in the couple minutes that we have left, is there like any final guidance or advice you'd like to share from your life, your experiences, your book?
I mean, if I could, listeners, right, or viewers, whatever you call the people on the other end of this, if I could put a gun to your head and force you to go find that leader that's already doing what you want to do, and to actually, do what they say, I would. Because if you just did that consistently and persistently, there's no telling what you're gonna do. And you start, it just makes everything go so much faster. And then you start making these big dreams happen. And then average people, they start calling you lucky. So there you go.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. Great to see you again. And Andy, I'll hand it off to you.
All right. So you've been watching another edition of A Million Veteran Millionaires. It's a hive mind platform where the bright minds come together. You can watch the videos, listen to the audio on SoundCloud or on YouTube or on the website. We do archive them as well. We do have a bookstore, so you can look at some of the recommended books that we're reviewing and recommending. We're going to add a blog, so we'll be posting Ruben's article that he recently wrote, and we're going to follow his journey to the Olympics this year. Is 2024, is that correct, in Italy?
2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, so we'll be looking out for him there. And then we didn't get to talk about your movie, but there is a talk of a potential movie. And I think when
when I hit that fifth one, I think it's a done deal.
Oh yeah, I think you're going to be so busy because it's unheard of. It's one of those rare opportunities, rare things that human spirit or whatever. So we'll be praying for you. We'll be rooting for you. We pray for no injuries and continued learning from your coaches and just rock that thing, thread the needle, as they say, and go for the gold. Right, make it an Olympic day. Is that what you say on your videos?
Make it an Olympic day. That's right. You guys take care. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
All right, thank you so much. Take care.
America needs veterans more than ever. As a veteran business owner, you are equipped with a focus, professionalism, and dedication that is rare in the marketplace. We are looking for former military, make it happen business leaders like you to join forces with the marketplace mission called Veterans Business Force National, a division of Network in Action Business Force based in Houston, Texas. We are rallying patriots to work together to grow opportunities for yourself, each other, and our community around the country. We meet once a month via Zoom to share our vision and align with fellow warriors. Together, we are stronger. Google Veterans Business Force National to find us before we find you. Apply to join our mission at networkinaction.com. We are Veterans Business Force National, on mission and locking arms.